to close out with, one of the topics that we've been discussing here today have been focused around how do we go about accelerating the post-COVID recovery and support women-led micro and small enterprises. And we also have been considering and discussing how we can go about tearing up the rule book on finance for women-owned micro and small enterprises. So I want to close out by asking my panel just to reflect on what they think we should do, particularly around tearing up the rule book. What do you think is perhaps the one key action that we can take going forward, particularly for the banking sector and for government policymakers and practitioners, perhaps, to even give consideration to ensure that we can accelerate the post-COVID recovery and best support women-led entrepreneurs? I'll start with Dinah.
Well, I think we need to rewrite the rule book. And within those rules, we have a huge call for sex disaggregated data, which many organizations, many banks, many policymakers don't use. And as my other colleagues have mentioned, there is so much unconscious bias, and we're really saying, think women first, whenever you're developing a product, a service. So sex disaggregated data and think women first. It's not 1, 2, sorry.
That's super, Dinah. Thank you for that. Betty, could I come to you? And I know if I can just ahead of that, perhaps frame my request for you to respond by, I know you speak a lot about the banking sector needing to adopt client-centric approaches to developing financial services. Besides that, perhaps there are 1 or 2 other actions, but if you wish to comment on that, that would be great as well, because I know that's such a fundamental need in the banking sector to be far more client-centric in how they go about offering financial services to women-led entrepreneurs.
Thanks for your question. My first observation about banks is that the smartest banks are already starting to work with those who provide services to women now in the informal sector. And they're saying, how do you do it? What can we do to link up? Because in some cases, the women are growing big enough that they need more money than you actually have. So how can we partner with you? So we actually have some work in this area, and it's exciting because the banks are having a huge number of aha moments. The savings groups are largely female, running between 75 and 90% women, and they're reliable, and they're demonstrating this reliability by their partnerships and their information flows back and forth between the two. So this is helping because this is client centricity right at the ground with what's working. With regard to the question of what the government should be doing, I think that the government has 3 steps. The first is make know your customers easier. I think that's going to be really important, particularly for women, and helping them. You know, if you're going to set up a biometric identity system, start with the women, do them first. The second thing I think governments can do is they can tell the banks, we're going to start watching your data and seeing how you're doing on women. Because I will tell you that in 2018, the Bank of Zambia did the first survey on this question, and the information they found was horrifying. And they just turned right around and said, okay, we're going to expect you to report. We're going to expect you to tell us what you're doing, get beyond the pink products to real products. So that was very exciting. And now the insurance regulator is doing it at the same time. So that's very exciting. The third thing I think that the government can do is say, we recognize that there is a fundamental difference post-COVID in the issue of digital finance and digital arrangements. And so women, there's a gap, there's a gender gap in women having cell phones. And the government's here in Zambia has done quite a bit setting up the signal, but in terms of getting women cell phones, that's a real challenge. And, you know, traditionally women have said, oh, cell phones like a crocodile, just sits there and eats. But when they discover they can actually get information that'll make their businesses better, they'll use them. The question is getting them there, getting people to understand and use them, getting fintechs to understand, let's develop products that can actually even be used by feature phones. So I think these kinds of things are pretty crucial. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. That's brilliant. Thank you very much. Jessie, over to you.
Currently in Zambia, we have just had a new ministry established with a cabinet minister, and this is focusing on small and medium enterprises. So for us, this is an exciting moment. I think we need to move fast and help them to integrate the various SMEs that we have on our database. I would like to believe that they are not starting from scratch. They're not starting from zero. We already have a pipeline of enterprises that have been trained. And this for us is a great opportunity where we can now align, most especially the women-owned enterprises, with the various interventions that the government has. For example, there is a new export market opening with a country with the biggest border in Zambia, that's the Democratic Republic of Congo. So we now have these women and they don't know how to tap into that market. So therein lies our opportunity to work directly with the ministry and fuse in a pipeline of enterprises that may feed into these opportunities that are there. So it's exciting times. It's exciting times for us.
Jessie, thank you so much for that. Yolanda, what are your thoughts?
I mean, obviously, you know, what my colleagues have said all is excellent points, and I don't think there's anything I would disagree with there. Maybe I'd just like to add, I think it's what's really important now is agility, that, you know, partnership and agility, because this is a very quick, you know, very rapidly evolving and moving sector. There's a lot going on. And I think the only way to counter that is to be rapid and to have partnerships and to move. And I think maybe the second thing that I'd say is involve women in the design of these solutions, you know, because if they're not at the table, you know, we all know how that ends up looking. So involve the women, the different client groups, the different user groups in the design, and make sure that they're part of the testing and the shaping of the products and services that are going out there. Thank you.
Thank you, Yolanda, much appreciated for that. And thank you to our panel of experts that we've had with us today. I'm going to close out just by quoting from the policy brief that we co-authored with colleagues from the UK, from the Lebanon, from the United States, from Argentina and Zambia, on the topic of the economic empowerment of women entrepreneurs in a post-COVID world. And in the concluding section, it says here, we recommend it is for the G20 government to drive a culture change in how banks provide services. And then there are two key recommendations here. Banks need to engage more actively with SME clients and design flexible compliance and credit scoring systems. That's the first one. The second one is banks need to consider the tie-ups that they need to have with microfinance institutions and self-help groups, as they often have better insights into clients' cash flow cycles and repayment capacities. And so by better understanding the life world of women-led businesses, the banking industry can better respond to their needs and design and develop services that are indeed customer-centric. So thank you very much for joining us today. Hope you enjoyed this panel discussion. Thank you. Bye-bye.